Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Texas Backyard. Tonight over here in Fort Bend County, we have a very important person, Tim Stroud, who's running for Congress, CD7, which comprises of a vast area which he's going to cover with us tonight. Thank you, Tim, for joining us and accepting our invitation. How are you?
Mo, I'm unbelievable, and I have references.
All right, Tim. So our viewers are wanting to hear about you. Obviously, you do have extensive social media presence with your website and other literature that's been floating around for the last 90 days in Fort Bend County, at least. I don't know much about Harris County, but tell us about yourself.
Well, Mo, first of all, thank you for opening up your home, your backyard, having your team here and letting me talk with your family. Everybody watching this did not get to see for the last 30 minutes of how we were able to interact with your beautiful wife and 3 amazing daughters and
Thank you.
Talk about homeschooling. So that was a real treat for me. And so let's just dive in there. And I never thought that I would run for Congress because I came from simple means.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 4th generation American. My great-grandfather immigrated from Italy, and so many other immigrants come to the United States looking for this dream, right? Whatever it is for them. And my great-grandfather came over and he married a beautiful Native American woman. And that was my grandfather, and he was 1st generation military. My father followed in his father-in-law's footsteps, and then I followed in my father's as well, and took some steps that I needed at the time. And growing up in a small farming community, never planned to join the military either.
So which military branch?
The Army. Is there another branch? Man, I'm getting so much trouble from the other branches, and I'm sorry. I'm just having fun. We get to have that tete-a-tete with our brothers and sisters in arms, right?
So how old were you when you joined the Army?
Oh, I was a late bloomer, Mo. 27 years old, because my father, he was also in the Army, and when he came back from Vietnam, like so many others, they did not get the send-off nor the welcome back that every veteran or every person in the military deserves, right? And so he took his uniform off and he did what he did in the military in the civilian world. So he decided to serve his community as a police officer. And we lived just outside of St. Louis, Missouri in St. Charles. And sadly, 18 months into his service, he was killed in the line of duty. And my mom was devastated, and I was 5 years old, and I still remember like it was yesterday. In fact, we've got a nice little guest. Colton's gonna come up. We'll talk about him in a little bit. But I remember being 5 years old and my Uncle Tony lifting me up so I can look inside the casket and say goodbye to my father. My day changed, my life changed right then. And I knew that I wanted to help people. I wanted to help my mom. She was crying, she was hurt, she was bent. She wasn't broken, but it took her a while to get her life back together because she lost the love of her life. And she had to take 2 kids, move to a small farming community because I can tell you right now, I had tons of energy. Mm-hmm. And I needed something to help me focus. And so she moved to a smaller community to focus on the education that we were talking about earlier with your wife. And she wanted to make sure that I had that opportunity to move forward.
So you grow up on a farm, you finish high school, you go to college, you graduate from there, and then several years from there, you join the Army.
Right. Well, you almost had it there. I was going through college, and then Mom got sick. Mom got cancer, and she wound up having a hysterectomy and a mastectomy. And there's so many men and women that have had cancer of different portions on their body, and it's one of the worst things ever when your body is turned against you. And thankfully, she beat it, but she had a lot of stress in her life. She went through a really bad marriage and with my stepfather, and we'll just say he was an unkind person. And I learned at a very early age that if I let my stepfather treat me as a punching bag, that he wouldn't put my mother back in the hospital. And when I left for college, I couldn't watch over her anymore. And so that stressed me out, but it got to a point, finally, she left him, but the stress level had just been off the charts. one night she went to bed, and Mo, she didn't wake up.
I'm sorry.
And as we were talking about off camera, that's a perfectly fine way to go when you're 83, 93.
Right.
But 43 years old, my heart hurt, Mo. I spiraled. I still believed in God. I've always believed in a beautiful power of this universe. But I was angry at God. And I drifted for a while. I'm a different person now. It's not that I did anything nefarious. It's just that my life lacked direction. And then a short time after that, I knew I needed that direction and discipline. So instead of enlisting in the military or going in as an officer, I enlisted. I needed to be broken down to a level to where I could have that humility and be built back up properly. Let's just say the drill sergeants at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, were looking for a 27-year-old smartass just like me. Just call me Mr. Push-Ups. And I learned very quickly not only about the leadership of the military, but the beautiful, diverse culture that we have in the United States. And too often times, we have our blinders on. We're myopic in our vision because we think our community is the United States. But when you get into something larger, that the great camouflage blanket that covers the United States brings people from around the world that, again, that they want that dream. And we have 1 million people a year that legally that come into the United States, and others through the military system. We had people that could barely speak English that I served side by side with, and I learned their stories, Mo. And I learned how much they fought to become Americans. And then I look at some of the guys to my left and to my right, and they were just cruising through life. And at first I was angry. And then I had to stop. I was like, that was me. When I was going through college, I was just coasting. And that was wrong. I needed that sense of purpose, so the military gave me that, which is great.
All right. So how many years did you do in the Army?
4.5. And so I went, my first duty station was Germany.
Oh,
then
wow.
I deployed to Kosovo. We went to Bulgaria, and then I went to Fort Hood, Kuwait, and then Iraq.
So what years are we talking about this?
99 to 2004.
Okay.
And so we were on the first wave of Operation Iraqi Freedom. And even though I'm very proud of my alma mater of the United States Army, the Marines. You want something done, you send in the Corps. You send in those devil dogs. And so it was I'm telling you, those guys are bad A. And they go out, and then we had our SF forces, our engineers, and then we had our tip of the spear, and that was me with our ADVON. And we jumped TOC, Tactical Operation of Command, 11 different times. We were supposed to go through Turkey, but the Turkish government in the United States could not get together with their agreement. And so instead, we signed agreements with Kuwait. So we went in through Kuwait. We had to wait for log pack in all of our vehicles, all of our supplies. And once those arrived, and we had to wait for the sandstorms to quiet down, then we began our journey north. And it was hot, not just with weather, but because of everything else. It was 127 degrees. I lost 22 pounds my first month in Iraq.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I do not advocate the Iraqi diet. I need to lose a few pounds, but I'm not going back over there during the summer.
Okay, so 2004, you get out of the military, the Army. So if you can quickly give us a rundown for the last 16 years until 2020, because then we know 2021 you started doing other things, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So 16 years, quick rundown.
You've got it. And I know the listeners are looking like, Tim, why should we vote for you? What are the qualities? We understand that you've gone through some things, but where's the leadership? Where's the tenacity? Have you finished anything? And that's where I think that I'm most proud of my life. I've surrounded myself with great people of diverse cultures. And when I was a combat medic in the United States Army, I learned every one of the religions that the Department of Defense sanctioned at that time. Because if I'm on the battlefield and one of my brothers or sisters there and they're taking their last breath, I want to know what's there to proper do, whether it's a right, a service, or just be there for them. So when I transitioned out, I wanted to do more. And again, looking around, I was one of the first guys that got out of the 4th Infantry Division when we got back to Fort Hood. And there weren't a lot of programs. There were some legacy groups, VFW, American Legion, DAV, Disabled American Veterans, USO, but that's only active duty, and the Jewish War Veterans. You look at those, plus the VA, which is national, but it's not really an organization. That's the hospital and where you get your health care. I looked at the main 5 groups. I really didn't fit in. And it's not against them. It's just that it was an older group and they weren't doing the activities that I wanted to do. But that's when the Wounded Warrior WWP popped up. And then you had different groups like Lone Star Veterans Association, TexVet, that I got to help start. The WAVES Project. There are over 30,000 veteran service organizations in the United States, and I work with over 1,000 of them. And I looked online. I know our current president says, just Google it. Well, you couldn't Google everything back then because they didn't have a presence.
Right.
And you're talking 16 years ago. And I met an amazing counselor at the VA. It's Dr. Catherine Kotrala. And she's like, I want to create this beautiful project to bring in all these organizations under one roof so we can share them with the veterans. The veterans can connect with each other, and the VSOs, the veteran service organizations, so they can connect, talk about best practices, and move forward, which was a great program. We connected with then Texas Governor Rick Perry, and he gave us $1.2 million to start TexVet. Beautiful website, still going today. That's a true testament of the group that we started with, because they are still carrying that torch, running it strong to make sure all the things I just mentioned are still going. And from there, I met all these organizations and all these people that wanted to do more. I got involved with Rotary, Toastmasters, my local chambers of commerce, and that's where I got involved with politics. I worked on presidential campaigns, gubernatorial campaigns, mayoral races, all the way down to my daughter's first grade class when she ran for student council. She actually interviewed Dr. Jimmy Don Aycock. He's a veterinarian. He was Texas House of Representative, and also the judge, he's currently in office as Congressman John Carter, and so many others. She would sit down with her pad. We'd been at Rotary, and she would ask them questions. She took those questions, we typed them up, and she used that as her presidential speech when she was running. And she won it. It makes my heart so proud that she did all of those things. And I look back to that, and that's the spirit that I want to take forward as we go through this process to run for Congress in District 7, is because people need to get excited, not just about the people they're electing, but the process. You cannot escape politics. If you choose not to be involved in politics, you still made a choice, but you've also taken your own voice away. And what a shame if you don't do that. So if you're watching this right now and you haven't registered to vote, you can be 17 years old in 10 months. If you're going to be 18 at the next election, you can register now. So register to vote and make sure that you have a voice. And when I started doing that, I started connecting to people on both sides of the aisle, Republicans, Democrats, and independents. And I found out, no, this is going to shock you, we're not that much different. And people of all colors, creeds, religions, they want what's best for their families. They want a good education. They want to be safe. Hey, buddy, how you doing? They want to make sure that their military heroes are transitioning. And that's one of the reasons I helped build a service dog program for our veterans. The last program I was with, we've given away 47 of these amazing canines, paired them with the correct veterans to bless their lives. Sometimes it's for mental health. Sometimes it's a physical disability. It could be they're a burn victim, or they're an amputee, or they just need that dog to get them through the day. And the studies that have been performed by third parties, they have shown that when veterans have service dogs, it blesses their lives. Their families, but also the community. When you have a well-trained service dog, I mean, you can tell pretty quickly whether that dog's trained or not, right, Mo?
Right, of course.
And then when you get out into the communities and you start listening and talking and just having a great conversation with people, you find out what's important to them. And then our elected officials, that's one of the most important things, is that a promise made needs to be a promise kept.
Yeah.
And just know that they're representing their community, whether it's a local parish over in Louisiana or it's 700,000 people in District 7. As we move forward, we need to make sure that we're listening to the people. And I think too often times over the last 20 years, definitely the last 16, I've seen that tide turn. And that concerns me, and I know it concerns a lot of others. And that's one of the main reasons I decided to run, because I saw our leaders not being servant leaders. And they're politicians. We're the statesmen. We're the ones that said, you know what, I'm gonna make sure that I'm gonna do what's best for our community, not what's best for them. You see tons of book deals, you see radio deals, you see TV deals, and you see them lined in their pockets, and you see the $1 trillion bills getting passed through both sides of Congress and Senate. And you wonder, why is there so much pork in these bills? And we were talking before, we're almost $29 trillion in debt. I mean, it hasn't been since 1980 that we had a surplus in the United States with our president and vice president at the helm. We need to turn the ship around, and it's going to be turning a cruise liner around, not a speedboat. So it's going to take some time. But guess what? That's one of the things that Congress does. They help balance the budget. It is the legislative branch. So let's put some good laws and make sure that we're electing people that are going to follow them through.
So CD7, Tim, what is it? What's the area?
That's a great question, because a lot of people watching right now, they're wondering the same thing. Old 7 was at 290 in Barker Cypress, rode that all the way down into the city, and then it came back. The top of that was I-10 and the bottom was Westheimer, with all the way to Katy, and boop, shot straight back up. So basically flip it down on its axis, push it down. It's no longer at I-10. It looks kind of, the top looks like a jagged edge of a key. So it's using Westheimer, goes into the Bel Air area, shoots up a little bit, captures Montrose. And if you're familiar with 33 Wesleyan, one of the apartment complexes, it's there. And then all the way down in Sugar Land. But when they were gerrymandering the lines, they didn't follow the major highways. It's gerrymandering 101. So it's a little bit on the west side of 59, and it's a little bit of the east side of 59. And there are some good maps out there, and we're waiting for them to be published. They still haven't released those maps, and then that's a little disconcerting, and it should be some yellow flags, maybe some red flags for everyone out there, because it means that nobody really knows which district they're in.
And that's not good.
No, it's not good at all. In fact, it's borderline illegal. It's definitely immoral, because as we did the redistricting lines in October and they were voted in, it should have been promoted, because it's not just the congressional lines that were redrawn. You have the different areas in Sugar Land or in Fort Bend County, same in Harris County. You've got state, national, and then you've got the commissioner lines, which all went left, right, up, and down. And people don't know who they're voting for, basically, until early voting. And that's going to be on February 14th, is that we get to start early voting, because that's 15 days right in front of the primary, which will be March 1st.
For people who are actually living in CD7, I wouldn't necessarily say promises like you said earlier, but if you can, in a nutshell, 3 items of your platform that you're looking to give back to the constituents.
This is a 3-hour show, right?
No. That's why real quick, so that then they can go and research on your website and maybe write to you or write to your team to get answers. But what are the 3 major items that constitute your platform?
I look at security number 1, Mo, but security is a broad blanket. So very quickly on that, it's securing our southern border. We have a beautiful system in the United States where we have 1,000 immigrants that come in legally each year. Your family was one of them, and so was mine. And I think it's a great system, and we should improve upon that. But we look towards our southern borders, and with our unfinished wall, we had almost 2 million immigrants come in. And we couldn't properly greet them, Mo, because it's not just bringing them here. We need to make sure that their kids have the right education. They're set up in the healthcare system, and we can set them up for success. And you look at the ones who abuse the system. I'm not talking about the families that want that chance. I'm talking about the people who will always break the system. If I'd ask you, why are there locks on your car? What was your answer? What would your answer be? To keep out who?
Yeah, to keep out the turds.
Well, that's close, but it's only to keep out the honest people, Mo, because if somebody is nefarious and they want to break into your car and steal your wallet or your phone that you left on your seat, guess what? They're going to get into that vehicle. But if you put the guidelines out there and you can put stuff in an orderly fashion, now you can help guide that system. And so we have to make sure that we are not keeping out the good people, but we make sure that we send that message to the ones who are human trafficking, bringing in the sex trafficking, the drugs and everything else that we simply don't want here in the United States. But that safety also extends, that dovetails into our education system, because we need to make sure that when we send our kids to school, if you're not homeschooling like your family is, that they are safe. And it's such a travesty when you hear on the news, because if it bleeds, it leads, right? But you hear about a story of somebody that got off at the bus at the wrong stop, or they trusted somebody, they went to someone else's house and their mom doesn't know where they're at. Now they're missing persons, or they've been caught up in that system, and you think, NIMBY, not in my backyard, right?
You're right.
What happens in Sugar Land happens in the Woodlands, and we have to quit turning a blind eye to that. So we have to really cripple that system that's out there and make sure organizations like Rotary that are doing great things, that they're able to expand and work with their local, state, and federal entities so we can stop the human and sex trafficking. You have companies like Goya. They started Goya Cares, and they donated $2 million. Bob's a great guy, but he took a lot of heat for stepping outside of the corporate entity to make sure that he enunciated to the public that he wants to invest in your families, and he supports a lot of different charities, which is great. Then you look at our military, and we need to build back our military into a system to where we're respected and we're welcomed around the world. No more of what happened in Afghanistan last year when we had that withdrawal. That's a travesty. When we train and we love our heroes. During World War II, the greatest generation, we had anywhere from 16 to 18% of our United States that served in uniform. Even a greater capacity like Rosie the Riveters that supported. Now we have fewer than 1% that serves. It's an all-volunteer military. We need to make sure that they're transitioning. And one of the other things that I'll look at, we have so many to talk about, but I'll leave it with healthcare, is we need a transparent system that makes sure that we're lucky to have such leaders like Senator Kolkhorst in Texas that has bills that supports the police officers, has Back the Blue, but also with the healthcare system, there's transparency with the pricing. No more can you go to a hospital and if you break your pinky toe, not know what it's going to cost you. Would you go buy a car today and not know what it costs?
Absolutely not.
If you could find a car, right?
Right.
Yeah, there's none at the ports. But if you went to go buy a car and you're just like, I want something safe that's going to fit 5 members of a family, and we need something a little bit sporty, and sure, we'll want fire engine red. And you're like, great. Well, how much is it? No, you'll get the bill later. You wouldn't do it.
Ridiculous.
Why would you do that with your healthcare system? And we need to make sure it's competitive. You have 4, maybe 5 of the large entities that are horse trading all day long. They're setting prices and they're gouging the insurance companies and the American population. Healthy competition makes America great. We need to bring that back, that healthcare system, as we were building it, and get out of that oligarchy that we've gotten into.
Great, Tim. So do you have positions for teenagers and young adults to volunteer on your team?
I'm so glad you said that. And this was not scripted, folks. Absolutely. We welcome everybody because we want to make sure that we're mentoring the next generation of leaders. And so if they're high schoolers or college students, we would love to have them block walk with us. We're starting this Saturday. Not sure when the program airs, but we want to make sure that we're reaching out into the communities. That's the best way, is to make sure that we have an amazing grassroots effort that we're leading the charge in both Fort Bend and Harris County. And they can contact my campaign manager, Leah Hagan, and I'm sure that we'll have some information that we can post as well.
So what's your website?
My website, it's really long, so get your pen and pencils out. It's timstroud.com. It's TIMSTROUD.com. We've got videos. We do virtual town halls. We do tacos with Tim. We go out into the community. We do amazing things, not with just some of the organizations we mentioned, but during the holidays, like we just wrapped up during Thanksgiving, we had Operation Turkey. I was able to spearhead that with our treasurer, Bob Gephardt, just an amazing guy. And we raised $30,000. We fed 8,600 people on Thanksgiving, Mo.
Wow.
And it wasn't like George R. Brown, even though that's a good problem, but we are a good program. We smoked 5,800 pounds of turkeys and all of the fixins, and we delivered them to families in Sugar Land, in Meyerland, in Houston, in the Montrose area, and all throughout Texas, or in the greater Houston area. If they said they needed meals, we delivered those delicious hot meals.
Awesome, Tim. Thank you so much. And guys, timstroud.com, really big, long website. Go on there. You'll actually find the links over there for his campaign manager, who's Leah Hagan, and you'll see other team members on there. Write to them, email them. You'll find phone numbers over there. They're pretty good in responding back. So if you text now, you'll probably hear something back before the end of the day. Reach out, learn from them. And of course, if you work with them on your team, you will get to learn a thing or two, which will be beneficial for you, whether you're looking to run for office in the future or to support any other candidates during the next cycle. So again, it's timstroud.com. And again, thank you, Tim, for joining us, accepting our invitation, and good luck for March 1, and looking forward to the general.
Thank you, Mo. I really appreciate it. And I learned this adage, the harder I work, the luckier I get.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Good night.